Right, hello, welcome everyone to a penetrating, powerful and pervasive podcast that is pungent in its perpetuity, in its ability to preserve and prolong an episode. So there you go. For those people who can remember the 70s, there used to be a show on the ABC called the Old Time, it was a English vaudeville theatre thing, and there was a chap at the beginning of every episode that would come out in a very, shall we say, pompous set of words, and the audience would gasp and ooh. So I probably failed dismally there, but ooh, yes. So who have we got on tonight? We have Joe.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
We have Dana.
Hello.
And we have the courageous Carmen, who is joining us this evening. Well, it's evening during this part of the podcast, but I'm very pleased that she has decided to come and join our little merry band of miscreants as we attempt to look at what games we've played and how exciting playing board games is. So
we'll be gentle. We'll be gentle with you, Carmen.
Okay, so I'll say hello to everybody.
Excellent, thank you. Well, first cab off the rank, which is what we normally talk about, is what games have we played since last we got together? Now, for some of us, it'll be very, very recent because they only played games last night. But Carmen, we'll start with you as you're our special guest this evening. What games have you played since last we've seen you? What's really stood out for you?
Well, last night we played Steam Up, A Feast of Dim Sims, which Joyce brought along to the Southside Club, and it was a brand new Kickstarter. So we got to play with all the little squishies.
Dana loves those.
Oh my
Dana
God,
loves the pieces.
I'm just salivating.
And probably Dana was jealous that we got to play it, and she hasn't because she's got it sitting on her table. I know.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Well,
how
it
many
might
does
not
it
be sitting on a table for too long.
Yeah.
I might end up pilfering it because it
he
was
enjoyed
pretty
it.
good fun.
So how many does it play up to, Carmen? What's the player count on Steam Up?
It plays up to, I think, 5. Yeah, 2 to 5.
Okay.
So it's really a light game, light to medium game.
Yep.
So I've got some notes here because I was pretty nervous. I was going, oh my God, I didn't want to sound like an idiot.
Oh, don't worry. I make up for that for everybody by being an idiot. So everyone should feel nice and safe.
So I could tell you the designers. So there's Pauline Kong, Heyman Lee, and Maria Wong.
I think
So what was
are they first-time designers? Is that their first Kickstarter?
I'm not
Do you
too
know?
sure. No,
I'm curious.
I didn't look that up.
So
No, I was just
what
wondering.
rating? What rating did Board Game Geek give for the game? Have they given it a rating yet?
Now you're asking something, aren't you?
Oh, okay.
I'm going to look. I'm just looking it up on BGG while Carmen.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So I could
So you were impressed with the contents, the game. I know Dana's been she's over the moon with it, and I think Joe, now that he's talking about, I'm now going to have to probably acquire Dana's copy. You're falling into my category now, Joe, of acquiring other people's games before they get to play them.
I think that's true because I hang around you quite a bit. So I think it's passed on
My
to me.
pervasive powers of perpetuity.
Yes.
There we go.
So I think on BGG it's like a 7.1 type
7.1, yeah.
scoring, and it's in the light to medium, as Carmen covered off, and what made this really good, I think, or lifted it up for me, was the components and the little steam trays and the dim sums. So I think that's probably going to be a bit of make or break, and you probably now, if you didn't back it on Kickstarter, you're not going to be able to get the deluxe anywhere unless you see it on Marketplace or something like that. But one of the really good game mechanics, and I'm probably stealing Carmen's thunder here, but I found that the rondelle part of the feature where you move around the steam trays and the dim sums really played a key part in the game, because as it started to get tight for getting your dim sums and trying to collect tokens so that you don't get penalties around the tokens at the end of the game, you lose VPs, is that you're trying to anticipate who's got what type of dim sum token, move the rondelle away from you. But in this game, and for the record, and I know that this is going to go to before a court of law, I'll claim foul. I came equal last. Carmen declared the winner. Well done, Carmen.
Oh, yay, Carmen.
Thank you. But it was
And
all the scores were really close. I think
they
there was
were.
only 2 difference.
Yeah, they got ahead really quickly, and so I was kind of caught in between this rondelle action of moving backwards and forwards. But I did say, Dana, that I did prefer this more than Flamecraft.
Big call.
I think it is for me, and I really like the quality of the components that kind of made the game, and there is a little bit of strategy and timing, and so I think the group really enjoyed it because it wasn't too light, but it was also pretty good pace. Hey, Carmen.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of like going out to the sushi train, restaurant. You see you're going past and you're thinking, oh, there's only one of those. I need to grab it before somebody else does. So you grab it off the train. That was just like the same of the rondelle. You see it and you're watching it to swing past you and hopefully grab it before anybody else grabs it.
Imagine if we had a board game sushi train equivalent. There were just board games on there. I think, John, you would you'd end up with a stack.
I'd be doing like an AFL type, jumping over the top of people.
Well, Dana, what have you played recently that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I forced my daughter to play a game with me. I've had this game on my shelf for at least 2 years. Anyway, in wrap, I finally unpacked it. I finally unpacked it and got to play it, which is good. That's what's great about this podcast as well, is I'm actually playing more games, which is wonderful. But I played a game called Yukon Airways. I don't know if you've heard of that before.
I have heard of it. I'm kind of intrigued to hear about it now.
Well, I was actually, to be honest, because I'm just quite materialistic, I guess. But I was drawn to it. The box cover is what drew me to the game anyway. But
so half-naked men on an aircraft.
No, look, this is the real book. Look how beautiful it is. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Flying pretty.
So good listeners, you can please visualize an aircraft flying off into the sunset.
That's right.
But anyway, keep going, Dana.
Anyway, so it's very similar to, Ticket to Ride or something like that. Plays 4 players, and you're instead of in Ticket to Ride where you're just creating a route from one place to another. Here, you're picking up passengers and delivering them to destinations. And it's a little bit more challenging because there are cubes, coloured cubes placed out on different parts of the board, and you're trying to match the dice to the cubes. And so sometimes you've got to manipulate the dice when you pick them up to try and get them to match. But they've got quite cute little player boards where it looks like an aircraft. What do you call it? Not the windscreen. What do you call it? When the dashboard. That's it. like an aircraft dashboard. And so you've got 8 dials, and then you've got various switches, and they're your upgrades that you can do to your seaplane to try and...
so you've got a cockpit in there, and
yeah,
you
like a little cockpit.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's quite good. And if you deliver passengers that match these coloured cubes, and the dice match these coloured cubes, you can do certain upgrades with these dials and switches. So it is quite good in that way. And so I think it's a little bit more challenging maybe than Ticket to Ride. Maybe doesn't have as much longevity because Ticket to Ride has lots of maps and things like that, and this is just one game. But I really did enjoy it, and I think Reese enjoyed it, even though she was coaxed into doing it.
Well, when you kind of mentioned the cubes, the coloured cubes and route building, I instantly defaulted to your favourite game, which was Age of Steam. And Carmen's favourite game as well.
Sorry, I
it
thought
is
your
actually Carmen's favourite game.
I thought the Estates was your favourite, Joe.
No, John, you're mistaken. That's your favourite. We had a bit of a powwow over Facebook Messenger, I think, or Facebook, one of those, about the Estates and your estate.
Yes, well, people will have to wait for my estate. They can join everybody else. Yes, all right.
But hang on, one more thing. Sorry, I keep talking.
Keep going.
But one thing that I really liked about this game was that it was actually designed by a fellow. His name is Al Leduc. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but who lived in the Yukon, and his father actually owned Yukon Airways, and it still runs today.
Get out of town.
So it was actually quite nice to see the connection with the designer. And there's even a little note in there because his father passed away, I think it was in 2014, and he said he was making a note to say, I wish my father could have seen how the airlines have grown and all that sort of stuff. So it's actually really nice, like just that little touch.
Yeah, sounds like, and I love it when they kind of tie in a little bit of that personal element to it in that theme, because I think it can make a game kind of pop, and you can I won't say empathize with it, but you can get into it. I like those ways. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Joe.
Look, I think for me it was really Steam Up. I have attempted a couple of solo plays with great distraction of Motor City and a roll and write that I had backed on Kickstarter, which is like a little mini express type of roll and write. But I'll probably give updates in future podcasts around that one. But Carmen and I had an absolute ball with Karen and Joyce at the venue yesterday, and it was really good to see, particularly how well the game was kind of put together, the look and feel of it, and we were at a restaurant as well, and we had a lot of people kind of looking and peeking over, and restaurant staff were coming over to talk to us about how nice it looked and inquire about the type of game that we were playing. So we did encourage them to get a rostered day off next Tuesday and come and join us in that regard. But that's great.
Oh, that's good. Well, the game that I played, I had the delightful company of Matt and Wanda again last Sunday, and one of the games that we played was Catherine, the Cities of the Tsarina. And it is I'm just reading here. Its mechanisms are hand management, set collection, network route building, as well as simultaneous action selection. Ooh. Which means ultimately you had a board where you could move you're trying to build a connection of networks, and you have a hand of cards, and you're trying to get your cards to match not resources, but things that you can do. So the cards will allow you to do the scoring works on. For instance, the person who has the most number of cannons gets 4 points, and you've got little icons, and it'll say, you can earn some victory points if you've got X number of these resources. And so you acquire the resources that come off the card. So it's a nice, quick, easy game. It plays 2 to 4 players. I see Board Game Geek have given it a rating of 6.2. So for me, it would be a filler game that I'd play at LXG. Something I'm just, wanting to end off the day with. It's just light, it's easy. I don't think the game took more than an hour for us to play, and that was with us, I think, learning the rules as well. So that was, I guess, my pick of the games since last we met. So we have Easter coming up here at the time of this podcast, and a certain person was cheeky and decided, what games would we like to see resurrected, seeing it's the time for those of us who are Christians. We have a God who came back after 3 days. So I don't know how well some of the old games have been. I don't think they've ever come back after 3 days. It might be 3 decades for some. But so what games have we played that have been resurrected or would like to see resurrected? So, Carmen, is there any game?
Well, there's a game that I want to play again because I've been missing it, which is Underwater Cities.
Okay.
So by Vladimir Sushi. So I really enjoy that game, and my son got it for me for Christmas as a Christmas present. He said, "What do you want for Christmas?" I go, "Oh, board game. Can you buy this?" So that was really exciting because I'm thinking that's probably the last time I played it was 2021 Christmas. So we played it a few times. Yeah.
Right. All right. Dana?
Well, I was looking at my shelves, and the one that popped out to me, and I've been meaning to bring it to LXG because it plays 5 players, and actually with the expansion it plays 6, is Lords of Waterdeep.
Yes.
Oh, Lord. I have not played this for probably 2 years. It's a really good game. It's a really good, straightforward to me, worker placement game where you're recruiting adventurers, and they go on quests, and you're gaining influence and rewards and things like that. And it's very straightforward. It's got a little bit of take that where you can give people quests, like mandatory quests and things like that they have to do before they do their own quests. But it plays really well at high player counts. It plays very, very well.
Yeah.
And,
I think to your point, Dana, it's a really good. I would teach this next to architects for kind of understanding the mechanics around worker placement. And when some people can be put off by the theme because it's kind of marketed as a Dungeons and Dragons type mindset, but once people kind of understand all the actions and the simplicity around taking quests on, it's really a beginner's platform to kind of springboard them into that next one. Do you think though the components could do with a bit of an upgrade?
Well, yes, because they're cubes, like your agent, the adventurers that you're recruiting, like there's clerics, fighters, and wizards, rogues.
And thieves, yeah.
And they're cubes. Yeah. So they probably could use a bit of an upgrade. Of course, I've 3D printed.
Yes, you have. I was about to say.
There we go.
Some little people.
Yeah, I think Thingiverse has quite a few of those free STLs for those people that wish to do that.
Yes.
But, have you played Lords of Waterdeep, Carmen?
Yes, I have. I played it a few times.
Did you like it?
I did like it because it was actually Stuart and Liz that I played with for the first time at the barbecue day. at
Okay.
Using my copy, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I actually won that game. It was the first time I played and I won.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised either.
You
You
keep
and
winning
Dana,
all the
I think,
time.
are the two best people I know that, yes, beat us badly.
That's
Or
it.
beat me badly anyway, but, oh, well, that's good. Joe, what would you like to see resurrected?
Look, I've got a couple here, and one of them is a Martin Wallace game, which I think goes back to about 2007, called Automobile. So it's I've seen it come up on Marketplace a couple of times. I do know somebody who's got it that I'm trying to pilfer and leverage it off from them, but essentially, it's very similar to kind of Martin's economic type games. Not necessarily overly historical, but you go through kind of each round. A player has to make a decision around, what they purchase, what they manufacture, kind of predict the market and commodity, and you get a little bit of a special ability towards, like a one-turn special ability, based on your faction. So it's one that I've, seen, not played, but it's been very difficult for me to track down. So Martin, if you are listening, I would love to get a copy of Automobile in that regard. John he's got too many games, Martin, so he doesn't need any extras from you.
Sorry,
but I
what?
gladly would
No,
love to have
There's
it.
never too many.
Never too many. Somebody actually rather cheekily said, "Oh, what year do you think you'll get to the count of 1,000?" And I said, "I have no idea. I wouldn't even try to calculate a chance to get to 1,000." So, but yeah.
And the second one that I had on my list is a little bit different. So I like to do a bit of tabletop stuff. So Kings of War have a skirmish tabletop called Vanguard, and I have a lot of those little skirmish creatures and fantasy all assembled, some painted, and I really can't find a group or individuals to play with. So I'm all on my lonesome, but it's something that I would love to resurrect and be keen to play this year, is just to set up a tabletop game of Kings of War Vanguard.
Fair enough. We must get some more Armada done, actually.
Indeed.
But, yeah. So for me, I'm going back to the dim past of, I think it's 1979. There was a game brought out by Avalon Hill Game Company called Naval War. And it was a very simple card game where you can either play it by randomly allocating people's ships, or you can actually play a nation. And the amusing part of the whole game is you're drawing cards to get your ships to work. And you might have guns on your ships that are 12-inch naval guns, and you're only drawing 18-inch ammunition. And you're unable to... You've got to find... Your ship cards will actually state what size ammunition you can use. So you're wanting to draw cards that'll meet the ammunition you need to be able to fire. But it's just a simple little round the table. They called it a beer and pretzel. I would agree that it is. I think it needs an update, because my copy, I introduced it to people when I used to game at the Blind Pig. Mm-hmm. And I think about 3 of the people who played it went out looking for copies. So it's a very light game. So certainly I think it could do with a modernisation and a bring back into the present. But yeah, like most things, some people like them or don't like them. So
would you do a straight like for like upgrade, but just using new components, or would there be something that you would change about it?
I don't think I'd change it, to be quite honest. Maybe bring it up to today's modern ships, but the problem is, World War II, like Undaunted. Yes, Undaunted. From Osprey. Like their Stalingrad box has just come out, and I'm seeing videos of their new one for Battle of Britain, which has really
amazing.
got me, because I am a lover of aerial combat games, so that looks intriguing because I really do like the way that Undaunted. Geez, I wish they wouldn't use the in their games. It confuses me between systems, but yeah. So, all right, well, on to our next topic is, I think I've asked, what games have we played that we have found to be so confusing? And I'll start this because I will say every game confuses me and confounds me, and consequently I really only ever learn the game after the game has finished, and I'm looking at last place going, I wonder what I did wrong. But that's just me. So I tend to be, I'm slow on the uptake. So I do tend to find that a lot of games confuse me. And with the people that I play with on a Saturday, when we have sometimes up to a 2-hour learning exercise and reading and listening to the rules being read to me, I've forgotten what we said 2 hours ago. So for me, it's it might be fine for the others. They retain things very easily, but I'm an old man now, and I tend to forget, what I said 2 seconds ago. But yeah. So, Carmen.
Yes.
What game have you played that you think has really been, very confusing for you to try and get the grasp of?
Well, I must say I haven't been confused. And the reason why for that is because every new game is either Dana or Joe has taught me. And they're such brilliant teachers that I don't get
Carmen.
confused.
Yes.
And she keeps winning, so she must
check is in the mail. The check is in the mail.
Dear.
Yeah.
But you're quite right. That does help with a lot of things, is the individual that teaches new people in learning a game. And clearly you've been incredibly lucky that I think most of the people never get me to try and explain to you how to play a game, because I'll get lost halfway through and forget what I've done and waffle. But yeah.
Well, I tried to teach myself a game, and what was that? What was it? Not Architects. What's the other one with the?
Is it Viscounts?
Yeah, Viscounts.
Paladin.
Viscounts.
Viscounts or Paladins?
No, Viscounts. And I was trying to teach myself the solo, and I watched Sam do a video, teach, and I read the rule book, and I just went, no. So I had to get a notebook with coloured pens, and I was doing drawings, and it was just like doing a teacher's lesson.
I was about to say, are we watching a PowerPoint presentation, was it?
And it was just trying to get my head around it. And so I don't know how Dana does it, teaching her first herself, because, it was tricky.
Yeah, no, she does very well. So, but clearly her children are rebelling against her teaching techniques. So, but that's children, I can tell you about that. Mine showed no interest when they were living at home, but now both of them will play games quite happily these days. So I think, in my case, I can't speak for everybody's, but I find that if you don't force them, they seem to be more...
Too late.
Too late. Well, I wasn't going to say that strapping your children to the chairs when I came over to play a game was the best way to do things, Dana, but it's But I think the gag may have been a little extravagant if you were trying to get them to tell you what they were doing. But no, yes, dear listeners, this does not happen. We do not abuse our children. We love them far too much.
Well, I'm very fortunate because, when my son was little, about 7, I was teaching him to play games. But now he's taken all those games and they're over his place. And the one that I'm sort of dreading that he's got now, and especially it's is Catan. And I've actually got the very first production of it, which is printed in 1995. And it's really sad because you might have heard that Klaus Tuber passed away.
Oh, he died, yes.
Yeah. 1st of April, only 70 years old. So
yeah, I did hear that.
Yeah, so that's where all my games disappear into his, but all my collection, like all I've got, he comes over and he scans them and he looks at them and he's probably thinking, wow, Mum's just got right into this board game thing. And I just keep saying, well, you're going to inherit all these. So it's good that he loves playing board games.
Yeah. No, that is good. Dana?
Well, we're a hell of a pair, John, because you're old, I'm menopausal, and I can't remember anything. So, look, I have spoken about this game before, but I would say if I could name one that has been the hardest game I've played, it would be Weather Machine. It was really difficult for me to learn. I've never played a game before that had just so many rules. There were just so many rules. I'm probably sort of used to playing strategy games that are sort of a level below that, below those Vital Lacerda type games. And that was sort of a big step up for me. And I have played it 3 times and I still sort of, certain parts of it, I find it difficult to teach it because it's just confusing. I have to refer to the rule book quite a bit, whereas normally I probably wouldn't need to refer to the rule book after 3 games sort of thing, but I'm just constantly referring to the rule book. So it's quite it's a really challenging game. And as I said, I've never played with so many rules before. And I have 4 other Lacerda games in Shrink that I've got to break open and learn. And I think, oh my God, that would be the most difficult game that I've learned.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm pretty sure, Joe, in your case, you find no games confusing. So, but
no? There are some. To Dana's point, I think some of these crunchy Euros, Vital Lacerda is known for the complexity and the brain crunching, but after you finish it, there's quite a bit of a euphoria that A, you've conquered it, and B, you might have surprised yourself, given some of the complexity. But it's kind of like, doing a physics exam and then coming out and then knowing that you've kind of, got a 5, out of 7 for your grade score. But Weather Machine, I'm just having a look now, Dana, is difficulty rating of 4.56 and kind of sits behind 2 other Lacerda games. One being, I think, Lisboa, and the other one being On Mars. And the one that I had was to share was On Mars, and I think having played it a couple of times now, again, to remember the rules, it does slowly come back to you. But why does On Mars is really complex because you've got so many things happening on the board, and then you've got to kind of also figure out, where you need to be, catch the shuttle back to kind of the space station or going back to colonize. Various actions are on one side of the board and the other. And then at the same time, you've got this, life support system that's supposed to sustain, your colonists, and they get consumed / exhausted as you take some of those actions. So player order does make a massive difference in On Mars and a lot of the crunchier games as well. Player order makes a big difference in Age of Steam, for example. So it is complex. I've got the expansion for it, Alien Invasion, which I think you do need a PhD to do that one. Hence it's why it's in shrink. But whether it's Kanban, Lisboa, the Gallerist, on Mars, Weather Machine, I wonder what Vital's next game will be. In terms, I think it's called the Inventor. Is that right, Dana?
The Inventor, yeah, that's right. I think that's right. I put it on Facebook.
And
actually, it's coming up, yeah.
And whether that is going to be equally as challenging or more difficult. I certainly think Escape Plan and Vinos are probably his lighter ones, and I'm happy to teach those more so than on Mars. But it does get difficult. I often will turn to the Greek god, Defkalion, Kalgaridis, also known as the Def, from Board Game Barbecue to do those teachers, and I will try and remember and record as much as I can for that gameplay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, what I will do now before we move on to the last topic is we're going to come back to our wonderful guest, Carmen, because I've got some questions to ask Carmen.
Ooh.
And I guess my first question is, when did you start playing board games? When did you find that this was something that you enjoyed, or what made you take it up? I've got you on the spot now. I'm sorry.
Yes, well, it's probably like quite a few people that you hear talking about, how did you get started? So my mum and dad, growing up, always played 500 and canasta, so card games. So I learnt that really early in life. So probably about 6 I started playing that.
Okay.
So that trick taking games. And because my father originally is from Germany, so I started playing German games. So that he imported across from Germany. I can't remember the names, but so yeah, I was surrounded always by cards or board games growing up, and I suppose I really enjoyed it. And I also, when my son, I made him play board games with me, and luckily he wasn't turned off like Dana's children. Like, it wasn't scary. He really, enjoyed it. So I'm glad for that, because I don't know what I would do. Yeah.
Does he like similar style board games to you now, since you kind of introduced him to it when he was younger?
Yeah, I think he's broadened from that, because now he's sort of stepped back from board games a bit. So he's gone through that stage of Kickstarters and like going to board game meets like 3 times a week and all that. So now, and then he sort of moved on to video games, like playing Destiny, like really in on that, like hooking up with people all around the world and going into competitions and going on, like when a new release is put out, like you've only got a few days to accumulate all these points and things, and I think he won a jacket which was sent out from the States, and he had it embroidered with his name on it. So
pretty hardcore.
And then he's also doing Dungeons and Dragons. So he's a Dungeons and Dragon master. So he does those sort of events. So it's like,
I would be really keen to have a D&D session.
Yeah. So like that social aspect of gaming side, he's taken that on, where I sort of shy from that those social aspects of games. Yeah, because I did try one of those D&Ds. I went on this knitting retreat over in Rhodes in Greece,
Okay.
and one of the partners of the knitters was a D&D master. So one night he said, well, we're going to play D&D, and we got these sheets of our characters and all this, and I went, oh my God, what have I got to do, And then we had this sheet and we're in a circle, and next minute people start talking about their character and sort of role playing, and I'm going, what's going on? And I was just like, amazed,
But role playing should be good for you, Carmen, seeing you come from a teaching perspective. Isn't that all part of the process of getting kids to learn is to role play situations?
I think I'm good in front of children, but
Oh, okay. So it's
when it's adults,
it's us.
You'll be
dreadful
fine in front of
adults
us.
with
We're
problems.
children.
Well, we're all children. Well, certainly I have. I haven't grown up in 60 years, so I guess that's nothing's gonna change there. But when did you start to get into the current board game rage that's sweeping the world as it is? Were you did you start playing from, say, the heavier board games from, say, the 1990s, or is it a recent, or has it I don't know. What am I trying to say is that, like, for instance, the club scene. I noticed that Carmen, you're very active. You move between quite a few groups of people.
yeah.
So when did that start?
Well, I sort of so one of the first games is it's really funny because I go down to this tunnel of things. So, like, how I was saying that D&D on a knitting retreat, and also I watch knitting podcasts. And one of the knitters that I watch in the States, she was talking about knitting, and then all of a sudden she starts talking about board games. And I'm just going, and then I'm looking behind on the shelves and going, oh, these board games. And she starts talking about Wingspan, and it was just released. And I went, oh, that sounds interesting. I have to do some research on that. And I purchased it, and I had to purchase it from overseas because nobody knew about it. So, and then it's sort of like, and then I go researching more to find more games, and then I test them out on my son, But I always I just give him the game and say, here, read the rules and then teach me, because, obviously me and rule books trying to learn a game. So, yeah.
Joe.
I sort of, like, with my games, it's just, I've just come across it weird ways, and then, like, at school I start talking about it, and then I find someone else that's playing board games, and then it was through then following people on Instagram, like people from overseas, and then I don't know how, and then I sort of came across the advertisement for the barbecue game at Maruka, and I thought, oh, yeah, not many people will go to that, and I didn't jump and buy a ticket at first. And then I thought, and then it came around, I went, oh, I have to buy a ticket. And then it's sold out. And I went, oh, my. And so then I'm writing an email to Steve saying, oh, I'm just down the road. I really want to go to this, can you put me on the list? And I was fortunate that I got in. And then
I remember that too.
And then I rock in, and then, because I heard about another game, I've got to get this game, and it was Oath. And I walked straight up to Joe and David, and it was like, oh, I want to buy Oath, and it had it sitting there, and I went, yes, I want that, because I've researched it and I really enjoyed the gameplay, and I thought, oh, this is. But I still haven't played it. And I remember I just purchased it, and then Shane wanted to buy it, and he missed out, and I felt really bad. But in a way it didn't, because I really wanted it. But
Yeah, I remember there were two things. That was the first 2D6 kind of pop-up shop and the first board game barbecue. And it was also the first weekend that the COVID restrictions started to kind of be implemented. So there was a whole bunch of requirements around, providing the hand sanitizers and thinking about social distancing and requiring the COVID plans. And so it was very close, I reckon, in working with the board game barbecue people, that it could have easily been shut down. And I think by the Sunday or Monday, we actually began to go into lockdown. In that period of time. So it was good, but I had a ball at that meet, and I was also a bit skeptical to think about how many people were going to turn up, and the South Side's a little bit of a tiny area. And
I was there as well. I was there as well. Yeah,
you were.
Yeah, I remember, and I remember seeing you as well.
I think it was Taryn. Didn't Taryn go to that one, or did she not?
I don't think she went to that first one. Actually, I'm not even sure whether I'd met Taryn at that point, but I definitely remember, the venue, because it was a smallish sort of venue.
It.
It was a smallish sort of venue, and it was very exciting because some of the podcast members were there, so it was like,
that's right.
It's really big. Putting a face to a name, and I remember I'm sorry, John, I'm going to tell you this. I got Dwellings of Eldervale at 10% off.
What, my copy that's coming to my home very shortly.
And I missed out on Dwellings of Eldervale at that session.
But then I think somebody had a problem when they ordered some mats for the Wingspan, latest Wingspan expansion. We won't talk about the embarrassment for that, will we, Joe?
No.
We only bought one mat, and he needed how many? A few. That's right. Yes.
You thought it was a group of 5, and it was only one.
It's just one. But we won't pursue
51st
that one.
State. Not Wingspan, 51st State.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Wingspan, I was thinking, did you do it a second?
Oh, sorry, no. Sorry, you're quite... I'm talking out my backside again. So, as I said, never pay any attention to me. So, look, we're coming close to finishing up with our time. What I would like to finish on is just covering what Joe does on Facebook for the Southeast Queensland Kickstarter. What's the full title, Joe? And would you like
Southeast
to tell
Queensland
us about what it is you do?
Yeah, Southeast Queensland Kickstarter and group buys. So this kind of eventuated when 2D6 had the shop up and running, and I kind of wanted to bring together the community groups together to kind of see and move away from individual buys and start to think about how we could get better value by moving into group buys. And so whilst Cassie and Joyce were quite active in their forums, the group buy kind of brought everybody together, and it started off with about 20 people being on this Facebook group. And when I looked yesterday, there were 227 in just over 2 years that have now joined that group. And so essentially, people post what they're looking at, what they're looking forward to, and amongst the community, we organise group buys and get savings for as many people as we can. And that includes me going back to certain publishers and trying to get the best deals, both on postage and discounts. And it is getting tougher and tougher with the shipping prices. So the savings can be a little bit bigger, but the difficult thing has been the impact on my wallet, because I can't help myself. And when somebody says, "Oh, how about this one?" then I kind of go, "Yep, it looks good." But unfortunately, I ended up buying the deluxeified version for fear of missing out. And my regret was not getting the deluxeified version of Steam Up. But Dana has said that I will have first dibs on her copy.
Sorry? What? You might have to stand in line. The vulture of board games is here, looking at where he can pick the bones before anybody else can.
Indeed. But the group itself isn't just limited to Southeast Queensland. I've got people in there from South Australia and Sydney who sometimes can't get in on their own, and the postage might be $14 or something like that to get it from Brisbane to Sydney, and they still are coming out ahead. So there's been some really good examples of group buys, but and in some cases people are saving $50, $60, $70, $80 on group buys, which is really another game on its own. So yes, it's something that I like doing. It helps bring the community together, which is fantastic. And yeah, there's a lot of people with generosity and helping distribute and deliver the games. I think everybody has helped some way or another. Transport games out to western suburbs, northern suburbs, and in the Logan area. So I'm very grateful for that help.
Well, that's good. All right. Well, I think that will be all for this episode. I'd like to thank the usual cast, and especially for courageous Carmen for joining us. I hope, as you can see, it's just us sitting around a microphone and having a chin wag, which is really what we do when we go to the LXG, isn't it? When we're sitting there. And although I must admit the best one is of a certain person taking a photo of the scones. I think that's one of the better photos. Those scones.
Jessica, your scones are amazing.
I thought that was a marvellous photo, but not as good as Dana's whacking a plate at the LXG retreat with that sausage of hers, doing shaving a haircut on the plate.
The
veggie sausage,
wooden veggie sausage.
Yes. It was. I think that was brilliant. The one that you shared, I thought that was really, really good. So, all right, everybody, look, thank you very much for participating in tonight. I'm hoping we'll have Carmen back again. Okay. And so it's good night from me. Oh, hang on. Carmen's waving a finger. What's up, Carmen?
Oh, today on The Chase, there was a question about a board game. It was a Ticket to Ride, and the question was, what was the first edition? Where did it take place? And the expert got it wrong.
There you go.
Really?
Yes. What? He said London.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite funny because funny as I watched it.
Beaten one of the experts. You could have beaten them.
Yeah, I was watching it this afternoon thinking, board game question. I'm coming onto the podcast today, so I thought I had to tell you that.
Well, thank you very much for that. That's almost as good as the Rude Jude video you shared with us. That was highly loved. I showed my wife, and she thought that was incredibly exciting, especially the little mouse joke tattoo. She thought that was hilarious. Yeah. Anyway, we will leave it there. Thank you, everybody, and we will catch you at the next episode.
Safe travels.
Okay, thank you.
Happy gaming.
Bye, everyone.